Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for another of our Masterclass series today with myself and Jim Berg. I'm a self-appointed expert in route design in tricky cities, and so what better people to talk about how to execute a workout properly. We discuss what sort of workout compliance do you need. If you're doing easy endurance, does the workout compliance really differ, or is it important compared to, say, doing 40-20s and 30-30s? I never realized there's a big difference between those two. What should be on your bike computer when you're executing a workout, how to design a route for various workouts, and with the road conditions and geography around where you are, and also how the pros seem to execute a workout. It's a topic which seems really straightforward, but then as you start to get into it, you realize every single person has something different on their bike computer, has a different way of creating routes and a different way to do workouts. Everyone's a little bit different. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. Let us know down below what is on your lap screen, if you indeed have a lap screen, when you do a workout. Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for another installment in our Masterclass series, Executing a Workout, here with Jim Berg, and I've got very strong feelings on this. I feel like this is the Vegemite or Marmite for you UK people of topics, something that seems so basic. Executing or doing a workout becomes so controversial. If you ever ask a pro cyclist what's on your head unit, you get 30 different answers within a team. And it's also something you can get wrong pretty easily. How to create a suitable route, understanding the demands of the workout. Do you need to do the workout exactly as stated? We'll get into all of that as well. I mean, for you, Jim, is this something front of mind for you at the moment? You just complained to me off air. It's 2 degrees and raining in the Netherlands.
Yeah. To be honest, I do my intervals mostly indoor, and it's actually pretty easy to nail them, right?
So yeah, indoor is. But it is easy because, it's unbelievable when you go onto Strava after the ride or whatever, or intervals, and look at your power data, you're like, I'm professional. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you're on erg mode. Congratulations. It gets a lot more difficult when you go outdoors, which is, I guess, where we'll start. Say you got an interval workout, Jim. It could be 5x5 minutes tempo with the 2 hours endurance. It could be VO2s. How do you go creating a route? Yourself?
Well, from my hometown, from Amsterdam, I actually kind of live in the city center, so it takes a while to get out. And before I go out, I know already what kind of intervals or workout I want to do, and which place in the surroundings of Amsterdam is like the most suited to do so. So I don't necessarily make any routes anymore around Amsterdam, because I basically seen every bicycle lane out there. So but I mean, even already the day before in the morning, I kind of like think, okay, what do I want to do and where am I going to do it?
I guess the Netherlands is quite simple because it's all flat. I guess you got what you're trying to do is, when you say suitable, do you mean road furniture, no traffic lights, and where you can actually ride at 40 kph?
Yeah, and where like the length to the next traffic light to the next cross point is like long enough to do. So I look at the wind direction, for example. That's pretty important. I mean, doing like a tempo interval of 10-15 minutes with like tailwind, that's kind of impossible to find a stretch of road that's that long. It's also pretty hard, by the way, with a really high cadence to like nail high power, but we can get into that a bit later. But anyway, so I look at the wind direction, and the stretch of road need to be like long enough, but also wide enough, by the way, because here in the Netherlands, we do have a lot of bicycle lanes, but sometimes they're pretty narrow. And especially in the weekends, of course, they can be busy. And then, doing like proper intervals, that's often not what you want.
I think the hardest, and this is dear to my heart because I've lived now in 2 places when I've been riding a bicycle where it's quite difficult to do as an amateur. As a professional, it's easier, I would say, to hit zones, but as an amateur, Brisbane is like stereotypically constant hills. It's very, very difficult within most of Brisbane, outside of the Bayside, to find 20 to 30 minutes, like 20 minutes flat, no lights, almost impossible. There's also no longer climbs at 5%. We do have a 2K 9% climb in the city for VO2 max or threshold intervals, but for like tempo endurance riding, very difficult. And then Andorra, it's literally descents in which you cannot pedal, or 7 to 8% climbs to high altitude, unless you go down to Spain. So there, it becomes a bit of an art actually to create a suitable route, because if you try to do 2 hours endurance with basically 2 45-minute climbs at 8% as an amateur with like a reasonable FTP but nothing special, you just won't do. You're setting yourself up for failure, right?
Yeah. And actually, to make it even a little bit more complicated, before we get to the solution there, but you also need to look at, okay, what am I training for, and what are the specific demands? Like, okay, if you are doing this Gran Fondo in a couple of months from now, and you're basically only riding uphill there, then it makes sense to also try to do most of your intervals uphill. But for like some pro trainer, for some pro cyclists that I still coach, in a pro peloton, it's not only about delivering your power uphill. You also should be able to get it like on a flat road, and for that, the demands of like delivering that power on a flat road is a bit different in terms of like how you're positioned on the bike, and also how easy it is basically to get your power transferred to your pedals during like the cycle, the pedal stroke basically. And therefore, a lot of pro cyclists also need to deliver their intervals on a flat road as well, depending, of course, how the program looks like, etc. So it's also like, okay, what are you setting yourself up for in terms of how do you want to, or where do you want to do your intervals?
And even your position on the bike will change. Like, it's we discussed this in another podcast. I can't remember who with. Maybe it was with David Bailey with the first masterclass about how people are the products of their environment. And Sepp Kuss has ridden up and down his whole life, Durango, then Andorra, and you look at his position on the bike compared to Remco, who rode around mostly flat Belgium, couldn't be more different. And so that's going to happen.
So if there's a Tour de France stage with a lot of echelons, I mean, I know who I want to call. I think Remco Evenepoel can be quite good at it. Well, in terms of his physique, the whole bike handling is another topic, but which is pretty important as well. But still, I think a guy like Remco, he surely shows that he can deliver the power uphill and on a flat road. But for a lot of amateur cyclists, especially the ones that are doing a lot of like uphill intervals or only doing them like indoors, for example, and then they're lacking basically the ability to also get the same power output on a flat road. And if your event is basically also demanding that, then you might get into a problem there. So it's not that easy to. So it's not only about like delivering the power, but you also need to look at, okay, what am I actually setting myself up for? And then you need to think about, okay, how do I want to execute these intervals or this workout?
I would say for basic intervals like a VO2 workout, 2 to 4 minutes, or even 30-30s, the ideal for most people is a shallow to moderate climb. So if the climb is too steep, you cannot do the 30 seconds off properly unless you're track standing. I mean, you can, but it's harder. If the climb is, and again, if it's too steep, it's hard to do tempo or endurance. You get in trouble with your rest intervals. Yeah, so a shallow to moderate climb, I would say, is perfect for those intervals. And that's what I do. If I have, say, 5x2 mins, then just pick a route where I have shallow climbs, or if I have threshold, then it's okay to go a bit steeper, I would say, because I know that as long as the climb duration roughly matches the interval,
So then I can just do threshold for the whole climb. I don't need to worry about the rest period because I'm not going to rest on the climb. So just think about, what you're actually trying to do. If you don't have a 15, 20-minute climb around you to do tempo, then like Jim said, try to find an uninterrupted flat stretch of road. And that's what I used to do around the airport, the back of the airport. If you find headwind on the flat, you can push tempo on the flat if you don't have the climbs.
Exactly. And that's basically what I've been doing here in the Netherlands. And also with like amateurs that live in more like hilly or mountainous surroundings, then like 85% of the intervals are being done on like shallow gradients, not that steep, like roughly 4, 5, 6%. That's all pretty nice to nail down your intervals.
But say I go back to Andorra and then it's literally impossible for me to do 2 hours endurance. Should I then just do, if I want to ride outside, climbs at a higher intensity at Fat Max or whatever you want to call it, at just higher wattage, that's still somewhat endurance? And then if it averages out, like, that's better than nothing still?
Okay, you want to do like 2 hours easy endurance, and for you that's like staying below what kind of hour are you aiming at?
Below 190.
Below 190, and you would say like where you live, there's like no way you can do a 2 hour ride staying below 190.
It's possible if I'm really so that's a discipline question. It's probably possible.
But that's often the case, actually. Like,
it's just harder.
Exactly. And you need to think about, okay, how do I want to do it? And you need to let go your speed entirely, because of course you go pretty slow up a hill then. But the question is really like, okay, is it possible? And I think for a lot of people, it still is to do whatever kind of workout you want to do. That being said, it might be a bit difficult more difficult depending on where you live. But still, I do think it's possible. But you need to really think about, okay, what do I want to do in this workout? Where do I want to do my intervals? And what is a good and safe place of doing them?
But that gets to the next point to discuss, which is how much do you actually need to do the workout as stated? So endurance is endurance. If you do 5 minutes extra or 5 minutes less, everybody knows probably it's not changing your life. But
nope.
When do you really need to focus on, okay, I really have to do this to the letter? Or when is that the case?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. Because first of all, I don't think, truly believe as a coach, there aren't any good workouts or bad workouts. It's only a good or a bad combination of workouts. So if we only look at one workout and you did something completely else, but the next day you kind of do the intervals or hit the energy system that you wanted to do the day before, for example, then the effect of not doing the workout as prescribed, levels out, basically. And of course, doing the second day something different than the first day, because maybe on day one you want to hit more high intensity work than on day two. I don't know. So you don't get the entire same effect, of course, because the next day is a different day. But still, the point that I'm trying to make is, if you're looking only at one workout and you did something completely different, it's actually kind of impossible to say that that everything goes wrong or that everything goes to shit, because it doesn't work like that. Because there's progress and improving is about like weeks, months, years, and not about one workout. And I actually often think that a lot of amateur cyclists tend to forget this.
So then, say you've got, 30-30, so it's got a prescribed rest period. Does that matter if you do, like, a 30-30 is literally the same as 40-20s? Like, is that, your body is not smart enough to know the difference between what's happening?
Well, yes and no. I mean, a 30-30, I mean, at least as I would subscribe it, or how enjoying a 30-30 would be prescribed, is that in a 30-30, you're more kind of like hitting anaerobic capacity on the lower end of anaerobic capacity, but above VO2 max, because the interval compared to a 40-20, the interval is shorter and the rest is longer. So you can have like a little bit higher power output, and you kind of like address more this anaerobic capacity system. And with a 40-20, you're basically doing more like VO2 max efforts with a short rest interval. And then with these really short rest intervals, the thing is with a 40-20, for example, is that every 40 seconds, if you for example then look at if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, for example, you would see like this these waves going slightly up. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but it's tending like towards its maximum. And what you're basically doing there is that every next interval, you're basically on a little higher percentage of your VO2 max, because you're not fully recovered from the interval before. And that's why in intervals like that, the duration of that 40 seconds and a 20-second rest is really important. Otherwise, you completely miss out like that effect. But a 40-20 is normally on a little bit like lower power output than a 30-30.
Okay, so that's one where the details do matter, and you should focus in on because it's a different energy system. But say you have a 5x5 at tempo, and your workout, the workout builder, whatever platform, says 5 minutes rest. So a standard workout. Does it really matter? Like, say where I have the climbs are all sequenced. It's like 8 to 12 minutes, and I'm just like, well, it doesn't matter. I'll get there when I get there. Is that where it doesn't really matter? Just put together a nice loop for yourself with the right climbs and hit the
it's not that important. You can I would actually go as far to say, like, in a tempo or a threshold interval, you focus on where to do the tempo or threshold intervals like properly, and you don't care about the rest period in between. You make sure you had a proper warm up. You make sure you had some cool down, but like in a tempo or threshold interval, normally you don't try to take the fatigue of the former interval into the new interval.
Right.
That's normally not the purpose of these kind of workouts. It can be designed like that, but normally it isn't. So for those kind of intervals, you just focus on what is the best way of doing them, But for like micro intervals, like 30-30s, 40-20s, 13-15s, like the run and start intervals, you need to look at the entire set as one interval, basically.
Okay.
That's just one, roughly 10-minute interval.
And so with the longer intervals, should you not just rest, but the time of the interval? Say you got to climb, you're going to finish it if you do the right power sooner than you're supposed to do. So you're supposed to do 4x6 mins or 4x8 mins. You're supposed to have 32. Yeah. Should you just look at, I'm supposed to do 32 minutes and I have 3 10-minute climbs I can do? Should you just do the 3 10-minute climbs, and does it really matter if you do it at the right power?
What is the intensity you're trying to hit there? Like threshold or something? No, then let's say that the total accumulated time in your threshold zone is more important than whether you do 4 times 8 minutes or like 3 times 10 minutes, although you're missing 2 minutes, but still, you accumulate like 30 minutes in the threshold zone.
Yeah.
That's the most important part. That being said, though, what you're trying to do with these threshold intervals is that you're trying to get like up to that maximum lactate steady state, where the accumulation and the lactate shuttling is kind of like levels out, right? Or you're near that point. If you then do, for example, 10 times 3 minute threshold, or let's say 20 times 1.5 minute threshold, then at the end of the ride, you would still have like 30 minutes accumulated in threshold. So, but you will never get to that point because in 1.5 minutes or in 3 minutes, you can use like different energy systems all the time to, then when you do like a 10-minute interval in your threshold zone, because it takes time to get there, So, yes, changing an 8-minute to a 10-minute and then doing one interval less, that kind of levels out. But there's also a limit to that, with tempo intervals and with threshold intervals. It's not like, okay, you can do, like, you probably wouldn't, but still theoretically do 20 times 1.5 minutes. No, that's not the same effect.
Yeah.
Because you're really using different energy systems. In the end, that's kind of important here. You're trying to hit those energy systems, and that's like the whole purpose of the workout. And that's something you need to take into account. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think understanding it's not a magic number, the prescription 4x6 mins, or it's representing what the workout is trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Understanding, what the workout is trying to achieve. And so if you have to tailor it to your specific circumstances, route, locale, whatever, trying to do that with in mind, what is this workout actually trying to achieve?
Yeah, so what we designed in Join, for example, is that you get this grade after a workout, like, okay, how good did you execute this workout? And it said a lot of people, you've seen it before, right? What's your highest grade that you ever got?
Well, I'm bad. I'm no good. So like 7.8.
7.8. Okay, yeah, but you only do them outdoors, right?
Only outdoors, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Indoors it's easier, of course. If you just do it in ERG mode, then you will hit a 10 easily. But still, 7.8 is nice. Anyway, we actually designed that.
I think your reaction is not that good. As the highest ever.
Yeah, for 7.9, it's not that.
In the Netherlands, it's easy. Come on.
Yeah. Well, yes and no. You can, if you truly wanna get like, because there are margins how we design this. If you really want to get like something above a 9, it's possible. It still is. Here in the Netherlands, you just need to be aware a lot of like traffic and shit like that.
Yeah.
So that's also not that easy, but still, okay. I do think here around Amsterdam it's easier. Anyway, where was it going? Yeah, with the workout score. We actually designed it not for people to like, now I really want to get this 10 all the time. We actually designed it the other way around, that we wanted to show people that, I think a lot of people think like, okay, I like completely did something else. I did a completely different training. I missed my intervals. There was traffic. I didn't plan the route properly, or the group that I was riding with wasn't cooperating, which they shouldn't, by the way, but still. And then you can get home and still get like a 6 or a 7, for example, because we wanted to show people like, okay, what is actually the most important part of your workout? And then, it kind of adds up like, okay, how's the duration? How do we think about the intensity? What was the training stress? Did you ride in the zones as prescribed? And that all adds up to this number. And we want to show, and we honestly think that a lot of like amateur cyclists often are only think that if I don't do this workout like exactly as prescribed, then it's shit. So that it's very black and white, and it's not like that. That's what we wanted to show with the workout score, basically.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned, like from looking at pro Strava files all the time, and successful ones, like the difference between the successful, well, they're all successful, but the difference between like the guys that really kick off and the guys that maybe don't improve, it's not that some absolutely nailed every interval to it's actually they did their workout, they didn't get sick, they built upon it, they kept building workouts upon workouts, they had good lifestyle behavior, all the things off the bike, etc., etc. It's not
that's
that
where the real
one
progress is.
nailed everything. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I mean, also like with the pro cyclists I coach, like I mean, in a week you might do like 2, maybe 3 like important key intervals where you really need to nail down the intervals. But sometimes, like it's also a 6-hour endurance ride in the Ardennes. Hopefully not in the winter, but still, you know, that's not. There's no nailing the workouts. And I do think that a lot of amateur cyclists are often looking at the pro peloton and thinking like, okay, I always need to do this like 4 sets of 30 15s and I need to like do these specific intervals every day, all day. And that's honestly like, that's not how it works. And that's really how you like burn out pretty fast, in my opinion.
So that's what I want to move on next is like executing a workout. Yeah, would you even say a 2-hour endurance ride is a workout? Do you need to? Because I really try to focus on, I got to be mentally right to do 1 VO2 max workout a week. Basically, if I can do the 1 VO2 max and then basically cruise around.
Well, that's actually a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good a thing to keep in mind. If you're already up to that, then you're already doing a pretty good job.
And yeah, how ready do you need to be to do specific workouts mentally and physically? Like, because some days I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling it, and it's just like, but I can see, okay, it's 2 hours endurance, whatever, I'll get it done. I'm not sick, but I'm also, you know, I'm a bit grumpy, don't feel great, shit sleep, but do it anyway. I guess that's what's your philosophy on readiness to execute a workout?
Well, so you just like, you don't call like a 2-hour endurance ride a workout. Actually, I do, to be honest. I do a 2-hour workout. A 2-hour workout can be as beneficial for your entire like progress towards whatever as nailing down these 3 sets of 13 15s, because maybe you did like high intensity work yesterday, you also did the right day before, then like on a bit lower glycogen storage the next day, you just nail down a really nice endurance ride, 2-3 hours. That can be like a great addition to your whole training plan. So and can be maybe even the most important workout of that week if we need to if we need to rank workouts, but because we should look at the entire like picture there. But so they can be as important as another workout as well. And like you said, it's if you do these VO2 max workouts at least like once a week, and that's the workout that a workout like that where you really want to hit like high intensity work, of course you need to be mentally kind of prepared, and the legs need to be fresh enough to hit those power numbers to really achieve that quality of the workout. Because if you don't, then you're probably just training something completely different.
Okay, then now the most controversial question, which is what do you have on your head unit? People can let us know down below. We'll stick to this with just when you're doing, say intervals, what should you have on your head unit? To me, it has to just be lap time, average lap power, 3-second power, and maybe cadence if you have a specific cadence or RPM target for the workout. I don't see why there should be anything else on there.
Well, I do have like, you have a specific like lap screen where you go towards when you're in your lap. So I have a different screen when I'm just cruising and when I do a lap. So that's an important part. And I really like for example, 10-second power, especially during longer intervals. So I have them like on top of each other. Like I see my 3-second power and I see a 10-second power, which I really like. The average power during the lap is important. Because then you see like, are you still like on target what you wanted to do? But it can be misleading, sometimes what you then also do, like you want to do a, I don't know, let's say 320 watts. And you can like, if you are doing like 280 for 9 minutes, and on the last minute you go full out and you still are able to have an average of 320, then you did train like a different energy system, because in the end you probably did like a minute of anaerobic capacity, and the 280 was probably like, wasn't threshold but more like tempo. So in the average of a lap, a lot of information is lost. But if you're cruising,
that's something I noticed with Bernal. If you look at Bernal's Strava files, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like he rides within plus minus 5 watts of his target power the whole interval.
Yeah,
like the power, like even outdoors, it's like he's on erg mode.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
and he always does them uphill, I guess, right?
Yeah, always on. There's always on like 6% steady long climbs in Colombia.
Yeah,
or Nice.
Yeah. So I also have another screen where I see like after I did my lap, what was like the average of the lap, and see some like an average cadence and stuff like that. That's also what I really like.
I kind of
also important question for you. Yeah, sorry.
So, no, I'm saying when I'm just cruising around, I just have the map. I don't look at anything else.
Okay, well, that's actually not a bad. And is there something on top of the map? Do you still have like 2 screens left there? Okay,
I was going full Balcomolima style. I realized I can stare at my head doing it all day when I'm supposed to be doing endurance. Mm-hmm. I tried it, and basically it comes out at the exact same number if I look at it or not. So I'll just look at the scenery.
Well, it is pretty important that, especially for people who just started to train with a power meter, you often see like, well, this power is like constantly jumping up and down, and you do need to develop like a sense of, hey, this is 200 watt, this is 300 watt, and
for sure, yes,
you will develop that over time. The more you're trying to do, target a certain power number, the better you get at it. But I was thinking, here now, for example, in the Netherlands during wintertime, it's really important to just let speed go, to toss it out the window, basically, because otherwise you're like, I'm not averaging, I'm barely averaging like 30k an hour now, because it's like, and which is with the same power output in summertime, I would easily ride like 33, 34k an hour. So I do like having that off my screen on my head unit. That's that's advisable.
That's one of the main reasons I did it as well, because you'll be finishing a ride and you'll be like, ooh, if I just push on here, and you can start doing the maths in your head. You're like, if I do this many Ks, I got 10 minutes to do 5Ks, and I'll average this. But then that's what I'll start doing. So it's to stop myself behaving badly. Otherwise, I just start chasing average speed numbers, which is counterproductive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not what you want. Hey, and do you always use, for example, with 30-30s, would you use a lap button?
No.
No?
It's why I use it as one lap.
Yeah, exactly.
On running, you can do it. I do it with running. I can do 30-30s pressing the lap button, but with in fact, even then I didn't. I just make sure I do it on the minutes. So when 0 hits, then I start the 30-30s on and press the lap. So that I did it yesterday with the join beta running workout. But I think trying to press the lap button with 30-30s is like, because what's the point? I guess to find out what average power you did in the 30 on intervals, but you can just do that manually in post.
Yeah, you can. But then you need to do it manually in post. I mean, from a perspective of a coach, you make your coach really happy if you use the lap button all the time. But also for myself, I even use it in like 13, 15s. I use the lap button all the time. It's also easy to keep track, you know. Then I know when I'm at interval 26, for example, in a 30, 15.
How do you know?
Because there's a counter every time you hit the lap button. So your first interval that you do is always like lap 2, and then it just adds up.
Well, I'd lose track of it. But
otherwise, if I need to count it in my head, like 13 intervals, I'm completely lost at the fourth interval already.
Well, no, because if it's 26, then it just takes 13 minutes to do it.
You look at the total time. That's how you do it. Yeah, you can do that as well. I mean, to be entirely honest, I just did like 13, 15s on Swift, and I was actually, and then in the bottom of your screen you can like count like the peaks that you see there in your graph, and I was counting them like, okay, where am I? But it was actually a big number on the left side, which said like, you're in interval 7. So,
that's another point with your head unit outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you export the workout to your head unit and do the workout that way?
Depends on the time. Well, I always said I never export workouts, basically. And because I still come from a day and time that you didn't have all this fancy stuff, and we still did intervals. You know, I mean, it's not like since the era of head units, we are enabled to do intervals. We did intervals before that, and I had a coach back then, and everyone was totally fine. We didn't do. That being said, we didn't do. Sometimes I see workouts that are so complicated that are like, how would you actually execute a workout like that? And I don't see the point of it, but that's maybe up for a different debate. Anyway, nowadays I must admit, if I do like 3 times 15 minutes tempo, I don't need to export a workout, you know, because I also don't do like the 10-minute or 5-minute rest in between. I just do them and I think about the route where I want to do those 15 minutes, and I'm not doing them on the same stretch of road all the time. But if I do, for example, a workout that I really like myself, is like doing 2-minute VO2 max effort with only 1 minute of rest in between. I do like 6 intervals of them, and I do like and a second set with 1 minute VO2 max with 30 seconds in between. It's also enjoying. But a workout like that, I really like to export the workout to my device. Because I lose track of where I am, and I use the pause button in between the 2 sets, because in between the 2 sets there's enjoying, I believe, like 10 minutes or so, and I kind of try to get somewhere around that 10-minute, but not exactly, of course.
Luke, our producer, is like a always exporter type guy, I think.
For any workout.
I'm pretty sure he'll confirm in the chat or not. But whereas I always do it, I always do it in my head because I get freaked out with it on the screen, and then if I see the rest elapsing, I'm like, you can't. I'm like, the computer's trying to control me in my life, and I just don't like it. So
you can pause it.
No, I need to take back control. So
okay. Okay.
I must admit, pause it.
You need to figure it out. It's not that like. You're on a Garmin, I guess, right?
Wahoo.
You're on the Wahoo. Okay.
Yeah, which is supposed to be the user-friendly one for babies, right? And Garmin's like the serious one.
I think Wahoo is not that difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, I should be able to figure it out.
But I mean, I've paused the entire workout sometimes instead of like the entire ride instead of the workout. Although there's like this screen that wants you for that. But anyways. It's possible to pause it, but you need to figure it out a bit, like how it works. And then it can be your best friend, basically. And you can skip an interval as well, where you go back and that sort of stuff. And I think that's pretty useful.
So key takeaways, I would say, from my perspective after this conversation would be, pick a route where you realistically can do what you're trying to do. Don't set yourself up for failure. pick a route where you can actually have a realistic. Okay, of course, there might be roadworks. I got fucked over by roadworks the other day. Super annoying. These things happen mid-interval, but yeah.
But can I add something there?
Yeah.
Because if you are because I see a lot of amateur cyclists burdened by that idea, or they hate that idea. But what if you're on your bike 3 times a week? Then probably one workout has these VO2 max intervals, which are you wanna do them right. How bad is it to go back and forth during those intervals instead of that the lap should be a perfect circle, should be I think a lot of people often want to do this route where they never want to do the same stretch of road twice.
Oh, you mean just do hill
4
reps?
or 5. Yeah.
Australians got no problem with that. Australians love hill reps.
Over here, I even know some cyclists that the route itself can't cross the road that you've already been on, and if you leave your own street to the right, then you need to enter from the left. So it should be.
I think this is a European
lap.
thing. I think this is a continental Europe versus Anglo divide. Another example.
Oh yeah, maybe it is.
If you look at McNulty's workouts in America, he's just doing his torque intervals on the same him and Quinn Simmons reps. Australians, we do Mount Cootha reps in Brisbane. In Sydney, they just do laps of the park. In London, they just do hill reps and laps. So I think this is a European thing.
Yeah, especially in London, if you do everything in a park, then you're doing laps automatically. So maybe I'm born in the wrong country, but for a lot of people,
in my defense, I got roadworks 10 minutes into a 20-minute FTP test, so that was pretty annoying.
Okay, could you have known? I guess not, right?
Oh, no. They were emergency after a flood.
Okay.
So that was
that's
annoying.
shit. Yeah.
What
did you do? Turn around?
Yeah. Oh, no, I just continued to the top of the climb when they let me through, and then went home and got over it.
Yeah, and then the 20 minutes was kind of shit.
Wow. Obviously, I did 450 watts for 10 minutes, so that would have kept going. No, I'm kidding. That would have been nice.
Yeah, that would be pretty impressive. If you do that for 10 minutes, then you're also fine on the 20 minutes.
I think, probably any training software I'm enjoying would, even if I did it for 10 minutes, would say that my FTP had changed. They could probably figure that out.
For sure.
But make sure the route works. My other takeaway would be actually think about what is the type of workout you're doing, and you can fiddle definitely with the longer intervals, fiddle with the rest periods, fiddle with the durations, look more at time in zone, duration in zone. That's really more important than being exactly 1 minute or to the second on with the interval. But then the shorter intervals, you do need to be more on. And I didn't realize 40-20s and 30-30s, there was actually a difference. So that's a takeaway for me.
But if you look at a specific workout, what is the most important part of a workout? It's duration. Secondly, it's intensity. Thirdly, it's training load, training stress, how much stress you put on the body. And then at the fourth place, you get are you hitting this right energy system for the time you actually want to hit it? And I think in that order, you need to look at how well did I execute a workout. So for a lot of people, that means if I miss one interval, on the greater scheme of things, it's not like that. Then your whole training plan goes to shit, because you might still hit the duration, you hit the intensity in the other intervals, you hit the energy systems in the other intervals. The training stress is probably comparable as prescribed. So, there's a next day. And also, if you think I'm training with someone else, or I'm going with a group, or this route is not suited for doing these intervals. I think a lot of people then think okay, I'm just toss out the workout entirely. I'm not doing any of these intervals. but that there is often a possibility of doing it for 80% right, and that's also fine.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, especially when it's about stacking workouts together and executing one workout at 95%, but then not training for 2 weeks. It's like, congrats, you did a great workout, but
exactly,
you're not getting better than the person who's just doing 80% consistently all the time and not overtraining. So
exactly, and you need to
that's
find
the most
a
important
way
thing to bear in mind.
Yeah, because you need to find a way how to make it like challenging and fun for yourself to to not get into a situation that you don't want to ride your bike for 2 weeks. That's where the real progress lays, and that's what we try to do with Join as well. That it needs to be like there needs to be this flexibility that you're able to skip a workout and do a group ride without any intervals. And at the same time, if you want to do a structured workout, then we're there for you as well. And
that's why I like the shuffle button.
Yeah, well, so the shuffle button is an important, like in terms of like from a coach perspective, we set you up with a different workout in kind of like the same space that we of the energy system that we try to hit. But of course, it's a different workout, so the effect is not entirely the same. From a coach perspective, it's not as good as the original planned workout, but still, it's so much better than doing no structured workout, because with the shuffle functionality, you're set up for a workout that you're actually wanting to do, right?
Yeah. I shuffle till I get the one I want.
Yeah.
Based on the route I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah, so, exactly. Well,
but then it means I do a ride and it's somewhat structured, and so it works.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
I just shuffle it because I'm like, okay, I want to do these 3 climbs in a loop, and then I'm like, I'll just shuffle until I get 3 by 7 minutes or something.
Yeah, you could. Well, we actually we once analyzed how much people use like the shuffle button for one session, and there was like one person that hit the shuffle button more than 300 times in one workout.
No way. No, because it gets no. It only
yeah,
gives
so
you like
at a certain point it gets into
it's
a
on
loop.
A loop.
Yeah, it depends on the duration that you have, but if he kept on pressing it for some odd reason, I don't know. But
good on him.
It's but it's actually like that. So I do think, like, I don't want to compliment John too much here, but I do think with those kind of functionalities, we do set up people for a structured workout a bit more easier. And that's what we're actually trying to do, like lowering the barriers of doing some structured training. Not saying that you need to do structured training all the time, but just making it like more feasible, easier to do, that it actually fits your route, or that it fits other rides and that it adapts. That's so important. And by doing so, I think there are like a lot of amateur cyclists on Join that with Join, they are now doing at least that one VO2 max workout per week, where they would have otherwise did like 3 of kind of like the same tempo, endurance, kind of sometimes some threshold work, but not doing those VO2 max intervals. And then they see after a couple of months that they make real progress by doing so.
I mean, when I was, especially in hilly terrain, basically I would just do like 30-second surges all the time. That was all my rides, and then kind of cruising. And I actually, for the volume I was riding and my body weight, I didn't improve like that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, whereas now, like, even a lot of riders I'm seeing training at the moment, not doing any VO2 work in the off season. But it's whereas some, like, for sure, UAE and others are doing VO2 work in the off season. So,
of course, I mean, everyone, maybe 15 years ago, people were not that on that level that everyone knew you need to do those VO2 max workouts in the winter as well. But nowadays, everyone should know, right? If you skip that energy system for like 3 months or 4 or 5 months, then it takes you another season to get back in shape again, basically.
Yeah.
It's, that's a pity.
Anyway, that was executing a workout. Let us know down below what's on your head unit. How do you like to execute a workout? How do you plan a route? Maybe you've got some tips and tricks. If you live in a tricky area, you live in a city, what's your go-to tips and tricks for executing a workout properly? Really keen to read your comments on that. Thanks for joining, Jim. as always. And
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.